Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Just like our friend the Scarecrow, we often find ourselves in fields where we feel out of place, where every task seems mountainous, where the word impossible looms large. But is anything truly impossible, or is it just a matter of perspective? Let's dive in and explore this concept, the notion of impossibility. We'll look at how it's often not about the size or complexity of the task, but rather the mental barriers we erect that make things seem impossible. We'll delve into the power of perspective and how, with a simple shift, we can transform the impossible into the possible. We'll discuss how to shatter those mental barriers and how you can become outstanding in your own field. So buckle up as we're about to turn your impossible into I'm possible. Remember our award-winning Scarecrow? Let's dive into his story. Now, I know it sounds a bit nuts, a Scarecrow winning an award, but stick with me here. We're on a journey to the land of possibilities. Imagine for a moment you're the Scarecrow. Day in, day out, you're standing tall in the middle of a field, warding off those pesky birds. It's a thankless job, no applause, no recognition, just you and the open sky. But what if one day you were lauded for your unwavering dedication and resilience? It would seem impossible, wouldn't it? Well, that's the reality for our straw-stuffed friend. He won an award, not for being the most flamboyant or the most intricately designed, but for standing tall, doing his job and never wavering. He could have thought it was impossible, but he did it anyway. He stood firm and won an award for being outstanding in his field. But how often do we look at our own lives, our own dreams and goals and think, that's impossible? How often do we tell ourselves we can't do something before we've even tried? The Scarecrow could have thought the same, but he didn't. He just kept doing his thing, rustling in the wind, and look where it got him. In life, what seems impossible is often just untried or unfamiliar. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion, it's a dare. It's a challenge. It's an invitation to push beyond what we know, to step out of our comfort zone, and to achieve what we never thought we could. So, next time you're facing a challenge, think of our Scarecrow. Think of how even the most mundane task can lead to extraordinary achievements if you just keep at it. If a Scarecrow can win an award for doing nothing more than standing in a field, what's stopping you from achieving your impossible? Ever tried breaking a wall with a spoon? Sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you it's not? We often limit ourselves with the walls we build in our minds, walls that define what's possible and what's not. But let's take a moment here and imagine this wall as a symbol of our self-imposed limitations. Let's take a walk down memory lane. I remember when I was a young lad, my dream was to become a pilot, but I was terrified of heights. Ironic, isn't it? That fear was a sturdy, towering wall in my mind, a barrier that made my dream seem impossible. But then I asked myself, why should I let this fear control my life? Why should I let it stand between me and my dreams? And so I decided to confront my fear, to chip away at that wall with my metaphorical spoon. It wasn't easy, I'll tell you that. It was like trying to dig a tunnel through a mountain with a toothpick. But I persevered. I started small, going on Ferris wheels, then roller coasters. Each step was a chip on that wall, a small victory against my fear. And with each victory, the wall started to crumble bit by bit. My fear of heights didn't disappear overnight, but gradually it became less intimidating, less impossible. And you know what? I did become a pilot. It took years of hard work, determination, and countless Ferris wheel rides, but I did it. I broke down that wall and achieved my dream. Our minds are powerful tools. They can build walls or they can break them down. It's all about perspective. We have the power to turn our impossibilities into possibilities, to transform our dreams into realities. So the next time you find yourself facing a wall, remember my story. Grab your spoon and start chipping away. It might take time, it might seem impossible at first, but keep at it. Because every chip, every small victory brings you closer to your goal. And just like that, the wall crumbles and the impossible becomes achievable. Ever heard the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade? It's a classic, isn't it? Well, let's delve into that a bit more. This saying isn't just about turning sour fruit into a sweet drink. No, it's about the power of perspective. It's about transforming seemingly impossible situations into opportunities. Let's take a stroll down memory lane. Picture yourself as a child learning to ride a bike. The first few times you probably fell, maybe even skinned a knee or two. It seemed impossible, right? But then you adjusted your perspective. You saw each fall not as a failure, but as a lesson. You learned how to balance, how to steer, how to pedal. And before you knew it, you were cycling down the street, wind in your hair, a triumphant grin on your face. Now let's fast forward a few years. Remember the first time you had to speak in public? Your heart was pounding, your palms were sweaty, and the words just wouldn't come out right. Again, it felt impossible. But you changed your perspective. You started seeing public speaking not as a terrifying ordeal, but as a chance to share your thoughts, to influence others, to make a difference. And with that shift in perspective, you found your voice. These are just personal stories, but they hold a universal truth. The power of perspective can transform any challenge into a stepping stone. It can turn the impossible into the possible. It's not about denying the difficulty of the situation. It's about looking at it from a different angle, finding the opportunity within the obstacle. So next time you find yourself facing a seemingly impossible situation, remember the power of perspective, remember the bike, remember the speech, remember that each challenge is an opportunity in disguise, and then take that challenge and turn it into something amazing. So when life gives you lemons, don't just make lemonade. Open a lemonade stand? Let's revisit our friend, the word impossible. A daunting term, isn't it? It's like a 10-foot wall, a locked door, a challenge that seems too big to overcome. But what if I told you that impossible is nothing more than a state of mind? Yes, indeed, it's all about your mindset. Consider this. Once upon a time, human flight was deemed impossible. Yet here we are today, jetting off to different corners of the globe or even space at will. The Wright brothers didn't succumb to the impossible. They simply changed their mindset to "I'm possible," and voila, they conquered the skies. Let's take it a step further. Think about Thomas Edison. He was told it was impossible to create a practical, long-lasting electric light bulb. Yet he didn't listen to the naysayers. He simply changed his mindset, telling himself, "I'm possible." After 1,000 failed attempts, he succeeded, lighting up our world in ways we could never have imagined. You see, our mindset is like a compass. It directs our actions, our reactions, and ultimately our successes and failures. It's the difference between seeing a problem as a stop sign or a stepping stone. It's the difference between saying "I can't" and saying "I can't yet." So how do we change our mindset from impossible to "I'm possible"? It starts with believing in ourselves. It's about knowing that we have the potential to overcome any obstacle if we put our minds to it. It's about seeing failure not as a dead end, but as a detour to a different route. Remember, the word impossible is really just a challenge, waiting for you to turn it into "I'm possible." So next time you're faced with a hurdle that seems too high, a task that seems too daunting, or a dream that seems too far-fetched, remind yourself of the power of perspective. Change your mindset, change your life. So next time you think something is impossible, remember it's just you telling yourself, "I'm possible." So are you ready to turn your impossible into "I'm possible"? Now you're probably wondering, how do I start? How do I break down my own barriers and conquer the impossible? Well, let's walk through some practical steps together. First off, we need to identify what our impossible is. It could be anything from running a marathon, learning a new language, to starting your own business. The possibilities are endless and unique to each of us. Write it down, shout it out. Do whatever it takes to make it real in your mind. Next, let's challenge our perception of this so-called impossible. Break it down into smaller, manageable tasks. For instance, if your impossible is to run a marathon, start by setting a goal to run for 5 minutes a day, then gradually increase your time as your endurance improves. Don't rush it. Remember, even the longest journey starts with a single step. Now it's time to take action. Start working on these smaller tasks one at a time. Celebrate your small victories. These are your stepping stones to your impossible. Every step forward, no matter how small it seems, is progress. And finally, don't forget to keep a positive mindset. Embrace the setbacks, the struggles, and the hard work. They are all part of the journey. Stay focused on your goal and remind yourself why you started in the first place. Remember to share your journey with others. You never know who you might inspire along the way. And who knows, they might even join you in conquering their own impossible. The journey to turn your impossible into "I'm possible" won't be easy. It will require patience, resilience, and a whole lot of courage. But believe me, it's worth every bit of effort. You'll not only achieve something you once thought was impossible, but you'll also discover a strength you never knew you had. Remember, the only impossible journey is the one you never begin. So take that first step, start your journey, and show the world that "I'm possible" isn't just a play on words, but a way of life. So we've broken down walls, made lemonade, and turned impossibilities into possibilities. We've journeyed together from the moment we first debunked the myth of impossible to the story of the scarecrow who conquered impossibilities, to breaking down barriers that stood in our way. We've examined the power of perspective, understanding that the lenses through which we view the world can either limit or liberate us. We've taken the word impossible and transformed it into I'm possible. A simple shift in perspective that can change our entire outlook on life. And then we gave the reins to you, inviting you to take your turn, to challenge yourself, to face your fears, and to turn your impossibilities into possibilities. Now we're wrapping up, but before we do, let's revisit the key takeaways from our journey. Firstly, impossibility is a state of mind. It's not a fact, but a perception. It's about how we see things and not about how things actually are. Secondly, the only real barriers are the ones we create in our minds. Break them down and the world opens up. Thirdly, a shift in perspective can turn impossibility into possibility. It's a matter of seeing I'm possible when we encounter impossible. Now the challenge lies with you. Take one thing, just one thing you've always thought was impossible, and approach it with the mindset of I'm possible. It could be anything: learning a new language, running a marathon, starting a business, writing a book, you name it. And then work on it, bit by bit, day by day, until you've turned your impossible into your possible. Remember, nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible, so go out there and make your impossible possible. Thank you for your watching. Please share, like, and subscribe.